Didn't want it, needed it. One question for every college quarterback heading into the 2025 season. But first, a question for a former college quarterback. Am I doing this because I'm calling games for a major network this fall and I'm feeling some sort of imposter syndrome? So I want to prove to myself and everybody else out there that I can accomplish a Herculean task like this? Nope, I don't quite know why I'm doing this. It's insane, it's time intensive, maybe we'll figure it out along the way. 5 rules before we get into it. First, questions that aren't allowed are as follows. Is this the year? Can you stay healthy? Are you him? Second, I go conference by conference in order of who got the most teams in the college football playoff last year. No skips. Third rule, if a guy transferred this offseason, I gotta tell you where he transferred from. Fourth, if there's a legitimate quarterback battle, I gotta tell you who the other guys are, but I can only ask a question to who I think the starter will be. Just because I don't list a guy doesn't mean I don't think he's good. It just means I don't really think he's in the QB race to be the starter in 2025. Last rule, I can't spend any more than 30 seconds on one quarterback. Let's start with a conference that's trying to bully everybody into automatic playoff bids. The Big Ten. Illinois, Luke Altmaier. Is your head coach, Brett Bielema, just banning podcasts at this point? The Illini snuck up on people in 2024. That ain't happening in 2025. Every podcast I've listened to has talked about Illinois in the playoff this year. They don't play Michigan, Penn State, or Oregon. They get USC at home week 5 and Ohio State. But if this team is listening to how well their schedule set them up for the CFP, they're probably not making it. Indiana, Fernando Mendoza, transfer from Cal. Is this just a one-year thing, or is this the program? Indiana's schedule helped them a lot last year, but they reloaded at running back and only lost 24% of their receiving production. Scouts think Fernando can be a top 50 pick. I think, having called 3 of his games, he's got to take a significant step to get there. That being said, he is a all-time top 5 favorite player interview that I've done. Iowa, Mark Gronowski, transfer from South Dakota State. Are you going to make Joel Klatt look like a genius? Hawkeyes went from scoring 15 points a game in 2023 to 27 with a new offensive coordinator in 2024. Klatt has Gronowski up there with John Mateer as the 2 most impactful transfers at the QB position. The improvement plus the new QB has him thinking that the Hawkeyes could win 10 games this season. Maryland, Malik Washington versus Justin Martin, transfer from UCLA. Justin Martin, how quickly can you get a tattoo of a fisherman putting Old Bay on a big pile of crab cakes? Even if you did that, even if you repped Maryland that hard, they'd still be clamoring for the true freshman. Malik Washington is the highest ranked quarterback to come out of Maryland. He chose College Park over other Big Ten and SEC programs. Martin is the guy ready to play right now, but he's got the future breathing down his neck. Michigan, Bryce Underwood versus Mikey Keene. Keene transferred from Fresno State. Mikey Keene, do you have Quinn Ewers' number? Michigan activated billionaire alumni and media moguls to get the #1 quarterback recruit in the country to stay in Michigan. The fan base is ready for the Underwood era to begin. Number 19 jerseys are probably all over the bookstore right now. Feels a little bit like my guy Darnold behind me, but I think Quinn Ewers is the only one who knows how Mikey Keene will feel when he starts week 1. Michigan State, Aiden Childs. Can it be more than just flashes this year? This dude will throw 1 deep ball every 3 weeks that makes you think he's the future of the sport. Rest of the film, not so much. It was such a big deal that Childs signed to play for Jonathan Smith in Corvallis just a couple years ago. You kind of forget that he's only been in college football just a couple years. Year 3, I expect a big jump. Minnesota, Drake Lindsey. How did Arkansas not offer you? Drake's dad played at Arkansas, his uncle played at Arkansas, his cousins played at Arkansas, his grandfather is in the Arkansas Hall of Fame as a running back. The dude was first-team All-State in Arkansas 7A football at Fayetteville High School. Coaches could walk from the facility to his game. Kinda insane the Razorbacks didn't take a flyer. Nebraska, Dylan Raiola. Can you be the first? No Cornhusker quarterback has ever thrown for more than 4,000 yards in a season. Geno Smith, Case Keenum, Brandon Wheaton, Clayton Tune, each of those guys threw for 4,000 yards working with Nebraska's new offensive coordinator, Dana Holgorsen. Northwestern, Preston Stone, transfer from SMU. Why can't the Pritzker family buy a decent roster? This really isn't a question for Preston, but the answer to it could go a long way in him trying to find some playmakers to throw to. Northwestern invested in the stadium, facilities, and coach. Why don't we see any other big headlines of Northwestern flipping a 5-star with an outlandish offer? Why not be the Texas Tech of the North? Sub the oil baron money for hotel heiress money and make it happen. Ohio State, Julian Julian Sayin versus Lincoln Kineholes. Julian Sayin, would you believe me if I said I know how you're feeling? Sayin's first college start's going to be against a top 3 team in the country. My first start was against Alabama in 2016. The Tide went into that game ranked number 1 overall. Man, I was looking across the line of scrimmage at dudes like Jonathan Allen, Dalvin Tomlinson, Minka Fitzpatrick, and Marlon Humphrey. Julian's going to have to contend with Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, Michael Taft, and Malik Muhammad. Sounds crazy, but we might look back and say I got dealt a better hand. Regardless, the easier question I could have asked, and the one that really only matters to Ohio State fans, can you beat the team up north? Penn State, Drew Aller. Is it really possible to import your entire receiving corps? For the last 3 off seasons, I hear that the receiver problem is fixed in Happy Valley, and then the fall comes around and it's just not. We've seen teams supplement the receiver room and find success, but this is a full overhaul. But don't get me wrong, I kind of love this group. Devontae Ross, first team all Sun Belt. Kyron Hudson, I know a lot of USC fans were sad to see him go. And Trevor Pena, a weapon in the slot who led the ACC in receptions last year. It should work, but that question's lingering for me. Purdue, Ryan Browne, great last name. What are they telling the quarterbacks in West Lafayette? It's probably a reflection of where college football is at as a whole, but I've never seen so many quarterbacks transferring in and out in one offseason. Rutgers, Ethan Kayak Manis. Does Jersey appreciate what they have in you? Rutgers hasn't had a 2,000-yard passer since 2015. We're in an era where quarterbacks can dip out over a couple missed checks. The stability a guy like Kayak Manis provides is underrated. Wisconsin, Billy Edwards Jr. He transferred from Maryland. Is anybody staring down the barrel of a tougher October than you? Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, and Oregon in 4 straight weeks. Brutal. UCLA, Nico Iamaleava transferred from Tennessee. Now what? It was the biggest college football headline of the offseason. I don't know if there's ever been a more high-profile transfer, but the next chapter of the story is all up to you, Nico. Winning solves everything, but that's going to be kind of tough to do in the Powder Blues. UCLA had the 126th scoring offense in the nation in 2024, an abysmal run game, and they lost a lot of production on defense from a front 7 that couldn't really afford it. Their win total right now is at 5.5. Regardless, we don't have to wait long for the answer to this one. In week 1, we get a Pac-12 after dark throwback with Utah coming to the Rose Bowl. USC, Jade Maeva. How much money can you spend at a Brazilian steakhouse? I like the starters on this Trojan offensive line. There's talent. It'll all just come down to how well they work together. They brought in a transfer from Purdue, DJ Wingfield, and a transfer from Syracuse, John Reed, to shore up the interior. It's a solid group. They just got to get them all rowing in the same direction. Washington, Damon Williams Jr. Are you ready to introduce yourself? Highest graded true freshman quarterback on PFF with 150 dropbacks. He's got Kyler Murray comparisons, but I feel like nationally, most college football fans don't really know him. UW fans are fired up though. On September 27th, the Buckeyes are coming up to see what the sailgating's all about. And if they're not careful, they're going to learn what Damon Williams is all about. Oregon, Dante Moore and Austin Novosad. Dante Moore, are you going to be a trailblazer? It's a little Oregon pun right there. After starting at UCLA in 2023, he spent the entire 2024 season backing up Dylan Gabriel. Now he's ready to get back into the driver's seat. I had a ton of respect for that move. I thought it showed a lot of perspective and self-awareness. If he tears it up for the Ducks this year, other big-time recruits might follow the same path. If he doesn't, then folks are going to make it sound like he was just trying to do too much. All right, I'm tired of Culver's. Let's go to Waffle House. Alabama, Austin Mack, Ty Simpson, and Keelan Russell. The rare quarterback battle these days where none of them are transfers from this past season. Austin Mack came over with Kalen DeBoer before the 2024 season. I think Ty Simpson's going to be the guy, though, week 1 versus Florida State. So, Ty, I'll ask, can you be a poor man's Michael Penix Jr.? Ryan Grubb is back with DeBoer, and these dudes love taking shots. Ty Simpson doesn't have to connect on a ton of those shots. Connecting on a ton gets you invited to New York like Penix. Connecting on a few of those shots should be good enough to win. And that's because Ty has what Penix had at Washington. Weapons. Instead of Roma Dunze, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan, Ty Simpson has Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, and Isaiah Horton. Arkansas, Taylon Green. Can you and Bobby Petrino shock the world? I don't mean win a title. The Razorbacks' win total is projected this year at 4.5. But in 2024, they were within 10 points of Texas and had chances to take a lead in the fourth quarter against number 4 ranked Tennessee and a top 25 Texas A&M team. And by my count, Arkansas should get at least 7 shots to shock the world and beat a ranked team in 2025. I think they get one. Auburn, Jack Jackson Arnold. Was it a Oklahoma problem or a U problem? He was the Sooner Prince who was promised. Oklahoma and the fans were stoked to see Dillon Gabriel head to Eugene, because it meant that the Jackson Arnold era could begin. None of that is Jackson's fault, but struggling to maintain drives and not getting over 10 yards per completion on the season is a little more so. We have examples, though, of where a change of scenery can do wonders. Hendon Hooker, Bo Nix, Will Levis, Jack Plummer. This can work. Florida, DJ Lagway. Are you ready to take Florida back? The Gators have plenty of big games this year. Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, they're all there. But in my mind, no game is bigger than the one versus Miami. Florida is as fertile of a recruiting ground as anywhere in the country, and the matchup in the Orange Bowl will be a battle for the soul of the state. Miami went into Gainesville and told recruits on the Gators sideline to join the U after they got the win in 2024.
Come to the U! Come to the U! Let it go, Don't go here!
DJ Lagway could return the favor in 2025. A Power 4 offensive coordinator who's not at Florida anonymously told The Athletic, if I'm starting a team right now, I'm probably taking DJ Lagway as my quarterback. Georgia, Gunnar Stockton. Are you better than any other guy that was in the portal this offseason? I don't think so, but I don't think it matters, because I don't think there's a better quarterback for this team than Gunnar Stockton. Kirby Smart says 54% of his roster is first and second year players. 2 of their top 3 receivers are transfers, with Noah Thomas coming over from Texas A&M and Zachariah Branch coming from USC. With all that newness and youth, a guy like Gunnar Stockton, who's proven that he can rally a team around him, feels like the perfect fit. Kentucky, Zach Calzada. How sick was it to upset Bama in 2021? I don't say that to diminish the rest of Zach's career, because the dude's battled. Transferred to Auburn and got hurt. Transferred again to Incarnate Ward. A lot of guys like Zach could stick their nose up and think they're too good for the FCS and the struggle. The dude went and picked up Southland Conference Player of the Year trophy and got Incarnate Ward into the playoffs. I hope the Wildcats can give him a couple more good moments to round out his 6 years. Still, upsetting Saban, I see you. LSU, Garrett Nussmeier. Are you gonna get drafted in the first round by your dad? Some very specific things have to happen down in the bayou for this to happen. Garrett and LSU have to be really good. The Saints defense has to be really bad. The Saints offense, though, with Garrett's dad as the offensive coordinator, have to show enough promise, but they also have to feel like, yeah, Tyler Shuck, he's not the guy. Very unlikely this goes down, but absolutely wild that this is in the realm of possibility. Mississippi State, Blake Shapen. Can you avoid the double goose egg? Things are a little bleak in Starkville. 0-8 in conference. A young quarterback who showed promise at the end of the season transferred, and the Bulldogs have to replace an entire defensive front that wasn't even that stout to begin with. But before Blake Shapen got hurt last year, he threw 8 touchdowns in just 4 games. He won a Big 12 title back in 2021. He can get you a conference win to avoid the double goose egg. Missouri, Bo Prabula. Can you win the border war? One of the best rivalries in college football is back in 2025. It's one of the few that causes division within the city. You got Missouri Tigers and Kansas Jayhawks mostly peacefully coexisting in Kansas City, except for September 6th of this year. And that game is massive for the Tigers. They start the season with 5 straight home games. If they win this one, they will likely host South Carolina, sitting at 3-0. Ole Miss, Austin Simmons. How does it feel to already have one of the coolest resumes in sports? Austin earned his degree at Ole Miss in 2 years. That's the first time I've heard someone do that since Alex Smith. The key difference with Austin, though, he reclassified up 2 years when he was in high school. On top of that, he is a reliever on Ole Miss's baseball team. So at 19 years old, he's an SEC starting quarterback with his bachelor's degree that, oh, by the way, can throw a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Pretty awesome. Oklahoma, John Mateer. What is Ben Arbuckle's offense going to look like when you're not the most athletic dude on the field? A big part of what made John Mateer the most sought-after player in the transfer portal was how well he ran the ball at Wazoo. Doing that versus San Jose State and New Mexico State is one thing. Doing it versus Texas and Alabama is a whole different beast. I think John will adjust. I think he's a top 3 quarterback in college football right now. I also love their transfer running back they got, Jay Knott from Cal. With Arbuckle's tempo, this offense could be dangerous. But the question that I often see from SEC hardos is a valid one. South Carolina, Lenora Sellers. Are you really the SEC's new Superman? I made a video trying to answer that question. I'll link it up above and down below. But I saw folks comparing Lenora Sellers to Cam Newton, the OG SEC Superman. I had to dive into the film to find the answer myself, which is ultimately no, but there's way more to it than that. Go check out the video. Tennessee, Joey Aguilar. He transferred from UCLA by way of Appalachian State. Can Heupel help with the panicking? Joey made 50 big-time throws over the last 2 years. That's 4th best in the FBS. Joey also made 51 turnover-worthy throws during that same time. By far the worst in the country. Then you look at his pressure rate, and it's clear that's where the problem is. Tennessee lost 4 of 5 offensive linemen. They're probably going to be starting a true freshman at one of the tackle spots. Protection could be an issue, so it's all going to be about how Heupel can put Joey in positions to keep up with his big-time throw rate while bringing down the turnover-worthy throws. Arch Manning, have we ever seen a quarterback like you? I made a video arguing we haven't. Again, I'll link it up above and down below. Check it out. This much hype on a team with these kind of expectations with a family legacy like this? 4 of 5 offensive line starters are gone, including a top 10 NFL draft pick in Kelvin Banks Jr. But similar story to Arch. Even though they're inexperienced, there's no doubt there's talent there. Texas A&M, Marcel Reed. Has there been any talk of just running the wing T? Le'Veon Moss is an elite running back. Kevin Concepcion lines up at receiver, but has made big plays in the run game his whole career. And while I believe Marcel Reed will be a better passer this year, the question remains. He's probably the biggest run threat at quarterback we have in college football. I kind of want to see it, even if it's just for one drive. Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia. Does your Diego Pavia persona mess with the best part of Diego Pavia, the player? There's this Paul Bunyan, tall tale version of Diego Pavia, the Alabama Slayer, the guy beefing with Josh Pate, larger than life. And he really did lead all quarterbacks in the country in rushing yards after contact last year. It's awesome, but that wasn't a thing going into last season. And I'm worried it might ruin the magic of Diego Pavia. The magic is his 1.3% turnover-worthy play rate. The Vanderbilt offense works because they possess the ball and they don't give it back. Onto the conference with the most handsome in-game analysts in the sport. Boston College, Grayson James and Dylan Lonergan. Lonergan, can you throw under pressure? The dude was a highly touted prospect and a Bama commit. We saw my Pitt Panthers find success with a guy like that last year. We'll talk about that dude soon. In Boston, the Golden Eagles offensive line is losing 2 NFL draft picks, and this conference has low-key dangerous front sevens. Lonergan's gonna have to make a lot of throws with guys in his face. Cal, Devin Browne, transfer from Ohio State, and also Jaron Keava Sagapulotele. I'll have to work on that just like Uyunglele. Dude's technically a true freshman, but transferred from Oregon after participating with the Ducks for Rose Bowl practices. Bear Bryant is turning over in his grave as a result of that last sentence. But Devin Browne, can you kickstart the Calgorithm in 2025? For the uninitiated, the Calgorithm is a social media movement that started last season in which the Cal community satirically embraced their woke and progressive reputation to just wreak havoc online. It gave birth to gold like this. If Devin Browne could pull off the upset as a home dog against Minnesota in week 3, we're looking at likely an undefeated Cal team heading into an ACC schedule with diabolical memes locked and loaded for Bill O'Brien and Boston College. That fantasy's enough for me to just gloss over the fact that this offensive line gave up 50 sacks last year and the outlook isn't much stronger in 2025. Clemson, Cade Klubnik, can you be Joe Burrow light? People forget that Joe Burrow looked like just a solid college quarterback before his senior year. Then thanks to the help of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, they led one of the most impressive offenses this sport's ever seen. Cade Klubnik, Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco, and TJ Moore, they don't have to be 2019 LSU. But if they can be the Bud Light to LSU's Budweiser or the Coke Zero to the original formula with a Heisman frontrunner, they could find themselves in natty conversation. Duke, Darian Mensah, transfer from Tulane. Can you beat your former team and coach in week 3? This is why it's the best sport in the world. Duke, Tulane means nothing to 99% of the football world. At the end of the year, folks will look back on this matchup as something like the 3rd place team in the American versus the 6th place team in the ACC. But if you look just beneath the surface, it's Shakespearean level drama. Darian Mensah was the first quarterback John Sumrall recruited to Tulane. He was a 2-star with no offers. Sumrall took a bet on him. Then he started Darian over highly touted transfer quarterback Ty Thompson when that was not the popular choice. Mensah and Sumrall went 7-1 last year in conference play. Even then, Mensah couldn't pass up $4 million to go over to Duke. Risk, mentorship, then betrayal? This ain't just another college football game. I got a PS on this one. Is Mensah Maniacs a thing yet? If not, the Duke fan base, they gotta get that rolling. Florida State, Thomas Castellanos, the transfer from Boston College. Can you be Nick Marshall? In 2014, Nick Marshall was an undersized, dual-threat quarterback playing in Gus Malzahn's offense that rushed for over 1,000 yards that year. In 2025, Thomas Castellanos could be an undersized, dual-threat quarterback playing in Gus Malzahn's offense that rushes for over 1,000 yards that year. What made Nick Marshall a conference champion and got his team into the Natty is becoming a more consistent passer. That's exactly what Castellanos has to do this year too. Georgia Tech, Haynes King. This is the one where I wanted to break out the can you just stay healthy, but I can't break that rule, so I'll settle with, can you do more than just ruin other people's seasons? Florida State's Ireland trip in week 0, Miami's playoff chances, Georgia's hopes of a walkthrough rivalry game, all ruined by Georgia Tech in 2024. It's easy to root for this team, but there's a significant difference between ruining the big dog's week and taking the big dog's trophy. Louisville, Miller Moss, transfer from USC. Can you prove the quarterback whisperer wrong? Say what you want about Lincoln Riley, the dude can coach quarterbacks. Since 2017, he's had 3 Heisman winners. Every non-COVID full season starter under Lincoln Riley in that same time has thrown for at least 3,500 yards and 30 TDs. Miller Moss was not the Trojans' problem last year, but the facts remain. Lincoln Riley moved on. What Miller Moss and the Browne brothers do in 2025 with Miami, Pitt, Clemson, and SMU, all a part of a tough conference schedule, will go a long way in determining how we look at that choice. Miami, Carson Becht, he transferred from Georgia. Can you forget about being the projected #1 overall pick in the draft this time last year? If Carson Becht can let go of those expectations from last summer, or at least ignore them, he doesn't have to prove that he has the best arm in college football. He doesn't have to go full Cam Ward. 90% of the time, Carson Becht just needs to keep them ahead of the chains and let the offensive line do what they're built to do. Fully ACC fronts. But the other 10% of the time, when he's playing teams like Clemson, he needs to be the guy that he was in 2023 that flashed some brilliance. North Carolina, Gio Lopez, transfer from South Alabama. Can you give flashes of Southpaw Baker? I know flashes of Southpaw Baker sounds like a Zach Bryan song or a mediocre craft beer, and I know Baker Mayfield is one of the best college quarterbacks we've seen this century, but stay with me here. The two are built similarly, right around 6 feet tall and 205 pounds. They're both efficient runners, and after this year, they will both have played a season with Freddie Kitchens as their OC. Lopez was the only FBS quarterback to throw for at least 2,500 yards, complete more than 65% of his passes, and run for at least 5 yards per carry last season. Now, Baker almost doubled Gio's 2024 passing yards mark in his Heisman season, but remember, I said flashes of Southpaw Baker. He does not have to be full Baker for the Tar Heels to have a good season. And shout out to your boy, this is probably the only UNC preview that won't mention the head coach's love life. I did what seems to be impossible in Chapel Hill in 2025, focus on ball. Notre Dame, CJ Carr, yes, I know Notre Dame's an independent, but with 6 of their games on the schedule being ACC opponents, I had to slot him in somewhere. So CJ Carr, has anyone ever wanted a cupcake more? He starts his college career week 1 versus Miami, and then Texas A&M comes to South Bend in week 2. Yes, there's a week off in between there, but he's likely going to end up on a list with Noah Fafita, Josh Dobbs, and Kevin Hogan as the only college quarterbacks I could find who made their first 2 college starts against ranked opponents. 2 of my first 3 starts in college were against top 10 opponents, so I got no sympathy. Yes, Notre Dame is notorious for cupcake games, but this year they're definitely not starting CJ Carr out with a couple. NC State, CJ Bailey, can you keep the Wolfpack tradition alive? People forget the dudes that have been under center at NC State. Just since 2000, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, Mike Glennon, Jacoby Brissett, and Ryan Finley all started games in Raleigh. I called a couple NC State games last year, and internally they're fired up about what CJ Bailey could be. Pitt, Eli Holstein, can Des Reed be a 2,000-yard guy? Eli Holstein was once a highly touted recruit and Alabama transfer who we alluded to earlier in the Boston College segment. He got Pitt off to their best start since 1983 before he hurt his ankle. My Panthers lost 7 straight to end the season. The offense returned 7 starters and 66% of their production. The latter mark is 4th highest in the ACC. Holstein doesn't have a clear-cut guy on the outside he can go to, so he's going to have to lean on second-team All-American, all-purpose back Des Reed to put up numbers that the ACC hasn't really seen since CJ Spiller if Pitt's going to have a chance to contend for a conference title. SMU, Kevin Jennings, can you drag this team back to the ACC title game? SMU loses the guy who set the school record for all-purpose yards in 2024 to the NFL. They're relying on the transfer portal to reload a significant chunk of a defense that was a borderline top 10 unit last year. Kevin Jennings was a nice surprise last year, and he's my pick for a super dark horse guy that could potentially rise to first-round draft pick conversation. If not this year, next. Stanford, Elijah Browne, do you believe that Andrew Luck can fix this? After Stanford was already decimated by transfers, an investigation into workplace conduct led to their head coach getting fired this offseason. One thing became clear in that whole saga. Andrew Luck is not just a figurehead GM. The dude's making program-altering decisions. I think that's good thing. If Elijah Browne can develop into a quarterback who Luck can build this roster around for the next 2 years, now would be the time to buy low on Stanford. Syracuse, Ricky Collins and Steve Angeli. Angeli transferred from Notre Dame. Angeli, can you do it for more than just one drive? With Notre Dame trailing late in the second quarter of a playoff semifinal game, Angeli went 6 for 7 for 44 yards and set up a field goal to get the Irish their first points on the board. It was efficient. It was clutch. It was a big moment to give the Irish momentum to win the game, but it was just one drive. Angeli needs to do that for an entire season. Kyle McCord's production last year I thought was one of the most underrated storylines in college football, and replacing his shoes is going to be no small feat either. Virginia, Chandler Morris, he transferred from North Texas. Can you get the Cavaliers to their first bowl game in 5 years? Chandler Morris battled with Max Duggan for TCU's QB1 spot for several seasons, but after Duggan left, Morris only got 6 starts in before he got injured. The next week, Josh Hoover took over and threw for 4 touchdowns, 400 yards against BYU. Morris was forced to drop down and proceeded to lead all Group of 5 quarterbacks in passing yards per game and passing touchdowns last season. He's got another shot in the Power 4, and ironically, the same way we all rooted for Max Duggan to overcome adversity, well, now the same thing can be applied with Morris. Virginia Tech, Kyron Drones. Can you let your defense catch their breath? The Hokies went 3 and out on 33% of their possessions last year. That's brutal for any defense, and Drones is one of the best athletes in the ACC, but to overcome that stat, he's got to do 2 things. Stay off the injured reserve list and complete enough intermediate passes to keep the sticks moving. He doesn't have to score 35 a game. Actually, in this conference this year with these quarterbacks, he might. But still, the fact remains, keeping these drives alive will go a long way in helping this team. Wake Forest, Robbie Ashford and Deshaun Purdy. Ashford transferred from South Carolina, Purdy from Charlotte. Robbie Ashford, what comes after the slow mesh? Wake Forest had an infamous offensive identity. The same way the Navy's gonna come at you with the triple option or Brendan Marion's gonna come at you with the go-go offense, Wake Forest was going to run that dang slow mesh. I love it for the program, not just as some fun talking point, but as a strategic element. It's hard to prepare for. It makes for clear communication with potential recruits. It gives you a path, and I believe in Jake Dickert, the new man in Winston-Salem, and he's got an opportunity to create a new identity for this program. On to the conference that got screwed out of a CFP bye week by Boise State. It's the Big 12. Arizona, Noah Fafita. Who are you without Tataroa McMillan? Fafita has thrown for 13,000 yards in his career, going back to his freshman year in high school. One receiver is responsible for 5,361 of those yards, 40.9%, and that receiver got drafted top 10 to the Carolina Panthers in April. I still believe in Noah Fafita, but he's missing more than just his number 1 receiver. He's missing his basically other half. Arizona State, Sam Levitt. What does the season after the best season this program's had in the 21st century look like? Arizona State took Texas to double overtime in a college football playoff matchup after being picked last in the Big 12 preseason poll. They lost their folk hero, Cam Skattebo, to the NFL, but in the final 6 games of the regular season, nobody in the country had more receiving yards than Jordan Tyson. Tyson is back, Levitt has first-round NFL draft buzz, and Kenny Dillingham right now, he's looking like a top 20 coach in America. The big difference though, they're no longer the hunter, they're the hunted. They're not sneaking up on anybody, and they could have a worse record but a better team. Baylor, Sawyer Robertson, can you hit singles? Baylor had a top 25 offense in 2024. They were top 20 in deep ball completion rate, but Sawyer Robertson was 108th in the country in adjusted completion rate. He cleans up his footwork, he'll be able to hit singles, and that'll open up what should be one of the best run games in the conference, with Bryce and Washington getting most of the carries. BYU, McKay Hillstead, Trayson Bourget, and Bear Bachmeier. Bachmeier transferred from Stanford when Troy Taylor got fired. He's another true freshman transfer. Bear Bachmeier, what's the next baby name? Jake Retzloff, the BYU Jew who came out of nowhere and led his team to a top 15 finish in the AP poll last year, is now gone to Tulane. It's a wild situation that leaves what would have been the conference favorite with a lot of uncertainty. Happier news, 4-star transfer Bear Bachmeier is an uncle, as is his brother and new teammate at BYU, Tiger. Their nephew, the son of former Wake Forest quarterback Hank Bachmeier, was born this summer. They named him Bronco. So we currently have Tiger, Bear, and Bronco Bachmeier. The more I thought about this family's tradition of using animal names as baby names, the more I'm kind of all about it. If I may suggest a couple to any Bachmeiers watching, actually, you know what? Wait a sec. Hey, babe, come here. What do you think of these baby names? Tiger, Bronco, Bear, Badger, Gator, or Bobcat? Any winners there?
Bear could play.
Really?
Of all of the ones you listed that are...
Why do you like Bear better than Bronco or Badger?
Bear, actually, I think is probably the name of someone out there.
Would you spell it normal?
As opposed to B-A-R-E as in bare ass.
Bare ass. There you go, bare ass Browne. All right, so Bear's a possible winner. Bachmeier's, take that one. Cincinnati, Brendan Sorsby. Can Cincy become a college football town? One of the coolest things about the Big 12 being messy is every team can sell its alumni on becoming the class of the conference. What Alabama and LSU are to the SEC, what Michigan and Ohio State are to the Big 10, that's what we can be to the Big 12. Conference realignment frequency, though, makes this a tight window of opportunity. Cincinnati has a strong sales pitch. College football playoff Final Four appearance, recent NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year alumni. The problem is Cincinnati is 8-16 in the past 2 seasons, and Sorsby doesn't have anyone else to throw to besides his tight end. Colorado, Caden Salter, he transferred from Liberty, and Julian Lewis. Julian Lewis, can you handle the keys? I can't get this image out of my head. What Julian Lewis does well is what Shedeur did well. Throwing accurate footballs with solid feet in the pocket. The key difference, though, is Julian Lewis was doing it last year in high school. The other option for the Buffs at quarterback is Caden Salter, who ran the ball at the 7th highest rate in college football last season. Colorado ran the ball at the 2nd lowest rate in college football last season. Unless Pat Shurmur completely changes the offense, gotta think that Julian's gonna be handed the keys. That, or maybe just the Colorado media machine got me again. Houston, Connor Wegman, he transferred from Texas A&M. Can you learn the power of good? Some people were projecting Connor to be a first-round pick this time last year. Good. His statistical split between Power 4 opponents and Group of 5 opponents is terrible. Good. Now he's on a team that's had their worst 2-year stretch since 2001. Good. The Cougars had their worst offense in terms of EPA per play in 2024. Good. 9 of 11 starters are projected to be transfers on that side of the ball. Good. No matter how high or how low you get, gotta stay consistent with the approach. Good is the path for just about anyone to do just that. Iowa State, Rocco, Becht. Can you win the great Irish Farmageddon on your own? Tariffs be damned. America's exporting one of the best named rivalries in the sport to Dublin, Ireland. Week 0 as Kansas State takes on Iowa State in one of the most unique Farmageddons that we've seen. For the last 2 years, Rocco Becht has had a top 5 receiving duo. They're both playing for the Houston Texans in 2025. The Cyclones lost their 2 best linemen last year. Going into his 3rd year as the starter, Rocco Becht has more pressure to make plays on his shoulders than he's ever had before. The problem is he's already a guy with a high turnover-worthy play rate. Last year was the best season in program history for Iowa State. The Week 0 game in Ireland will go a long way in deciding if that success rate stays. Kansas, Jalen Daniels. Can you do less? For everyone who got off the Kansas hype train in 2024, if we're being honest, we got to a point where we realized this is a pretty good Kansas team with just a bad record. 5 one-score losses. The Jayhawks put their offense in situations time and time again where they had to win the game on the final possession. Jalen Daniels had a 7.1 big-time throw rate. That tied Jackson Dart for the best in the country. He just needs to do better at just finding completion. Do less. That feels like a common theme with Big 12 quarterbacks. Kansas State, Avery Johnson, can you play from behind? The lead allows you to pound the rock, run that zone read, and take play-action shots downfield. Kansas State should continue to be elite in those things, just like they were in 2024. The Wildcats had a top 20 run game last season and returned 2 of their 3 leading rushers. Avery Johnson is one of them. He's the Big 12's returning rushing leader at the quarterback position. He was 4th in the country in play-action touchdown passes. The Wildcats team can get up 10 early on anybody in the conference. I want to know what it looks like when they're down, when everyone in the stadium knows that they've got to sling the rock and they can't rely on the run game. If he's forced to toss it and they can convert, this is a CFP team. Oklahoma State, Zane Flores and Haas Haney. That's a name right there, and Haney transferred from TCU. Zane Flores, can it get worse? The Cowboys went winless in conference for the first time in 30 years. Mike Gundy took a pay cut and wiped the slate clean. 41 transfers came in this offseason. The top 2 candidates for this Oklahoma State job haven't attempted a pass in college. Flores has been with Gundy longer, so I'm giving him the edge. He'll need time in the pocket to be effective, and this offensive line is pretty much brand new. I'm not saying things will get worse, it's just what I'm curious about. Instability in Stillwater. Never thought I'd say that. TCU, Josh Hoover. Can you ruin Jordan or Jordan Hudson's debut in college football? TCU opens up the season versus Bill Belichick in Chapel Hill September 1st. Folks, you're saying, and I believe it, I called one of his games last year that Josh Hoover is the best returning quarterback in the conference, not named Sam Levis. His ability to throw in the middle third of the field is a big reason why. 91.5 PFF passing grade on those throws. That was top 5 in the country in 2024. Horned Frogs got to hit the ground running. They got North Carolina, SMU, Arizona State, Colorado, and Kansas State all in the first 6 weeks of their season. That's the toughest first half of the season that I've seen from a Big 12 team. Texas Tech, Baron Morton. Are you ready for primetime attention? In a conference with Deion Primetime Sanders, it was the Red Raiders who made the most noise this offseason. A billionaire oil tycoon played a key role in assembling what another Big 12 coach called the best team money can buy in the transfer portal. 2 of the top 8 edge rushers and 2 of the top 10 defensive tackles in the portal joined the Red Raiders D-line that is already returning starters. On offense, a top 5 tight end, top 10 running back, top 15 receiver in the portal are all joining Baron Morton. A lot of eyes are going to be on Texas Tech in 2025, especially on September 20th when they head to the most underrated venue in college football, Rice-Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City, as they face the Utah Utes. UCF, Taven Jackson, he transferred from Indiana. Can you make this the right job for Scott Frost? Scott Frost is back at UCF after a disastrous stint at his alma mater, Nebraska. When asked about his time in Lincoln, Coach Frost said, "Don't take the wrong job." Don't love the lack of accountability from that statement from Coach, but there's no denying that Frost has developed some big-time quarterbacks. Darren Thomas, Marcus Mariota, and Mackenzie Milton among them. I mean, I'd pick UCF to finish last in this conference, but Arizona State showed last year that might not be a bad spot to be in. Taven Jackson will be a big part in the Knights proving me wrong. Utah, Devin Dampier, he transferred from New Mexico. Can you take advantage when all these teams load up the box on you? It's going to happen. Dampier ran for 1,184 yards last year. That was 4th most in the nation among quarterbacks in the entire FBS. He came over with his OC to play for a coach that mutters the word toughness while he sleeps. Kyle Whittingham has an opportunity to hit people in the mouth offensively like he's done defensively for decades. Defenses are going to stack the box with 8 or 9 guys, and whether or not Utah can win the conference will come down to Dampier's right arm. West Virginia, Nico Markiel and Jalen Henderson. Henderson transferred from Texas A&M. Nico Markiel, can you be Rich Rod's quarterback? Now, Nico Markiel will likely take snaps at quarterback with Rich Rodriguez on the sidelines as his head coach. Being a Rich Rodriguez quarterback is different, though. Pat White, who's now on West Virginia's staff as a quarterback coach, led his conference in quarterback rush yards 2 consecutive years. Denard Robinson set the single-season rushing record for a quarterback with Rich Rod. The tradition was alive and well last year at Jacksonville State when Tyler Huff rushed for 1,400 yards as a Rich Rodriguez quarterback. The guy with the 2nd most rushing yards in the conference tallied 780. Nico's never rushed for more than 150. If he's really a Rich Rod quarterback, he's got to change. All right, I'll stop there at the Power 4. If this gets 700 likes before August 10th, I would be pumped to dive back into my roots, the OG Pac-12, and the rest of the group of 5. I don't think the algorithm will share my excitement on that topic, but if you guys want it, I'll do it. Shoot, I don't even know if YouTube will feed this video to you, but if you're here, I appreciate you hanging around. The more I got into this video, the more I realized it was less for the virality and more for the true college football hardos. You guys, the hardos, are the only ones that are going to watch more than 5 minutes of this and enjoy it. 39 more days, 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 24 seconds until week 0 as I'm recording this. And I'm hopeful that this video can get you through at least 10 minutes of that. Cheers to the Mensah Maniacs. Wait, check this out. Live on, baby.